These techniques, they're a lot like Pacific Rim. Absolutely awesome and a delight every time you see them, but ultimately, they're a little bit silly. Hey guys, MasakoX here. We've been talking a lot recently about rating certain types of techniques and transformations in different ways. Some of you may be more familiar with the pretty trendy ones right now. Check out the tier list, by the way, cheeky plug over. I think it's natural to think this way since we are in a time as Dragon Ball fans where we look to the past in the hopes of a bright future for the franchise and the medium in general, which will see it secure its long-term destiny for the next generations of fans and really make a claim that Dragon Ball is for all the family. And I'm not talking about like a G-rated thing, but something that parents and kids can enjoy together every time Frieza's schnoz is decked. I can't wait for that moment with my children. So today, let's try to think differently to what we're accustomed to. Picture this. Take yourself and see this franchise from an outsider's perspective. When you then look again at the likes of Dragon Ball and try to parse what information or visuals there are, you might start to see that a lot of things in the series can look extremely convoluted or strange, which might be the reason why, for the longest time, a lot of mainstream media really like to down on the series, parody the likes of the show, and the tropes that it created to represent all anime, and that was quite unfair, mind you. That being said, to someone who is new to this whole world, all of these forms and techniques and trying to understand how they work and when you can use them, that are being thrown around like spare change, it can be very overwhelming. And quite frankly, it's easy to get lost for even the most knowledgeable Dragon Ball fans. I make mistakes, I'm willing to say that. Like how I keep forgetting about how false Super Saiyan from the Lord Slug movie is a thing. And I read your comments out there, don't think that I don't. What enhances this feeling even more is that Dragon Ball Z came at a time when this was relatively new, so it was pretty refreshing. Since then though, dozens of long-running series followed similar models of having compendiums of attack names and the like, so DBZ now, when you look at it, just looks as complicated as the modern counterparts, but back when we were younger, it didn't seem so bad. Some of the genre's most iconic attacks stemmed from that show. Since then, how many Blue Ki Blast attacks can you think of in anime that resemble the Kamehameha in some shape or form? Let me know if there are any familiar attacks in shonen anime that resemble the Kamehameha in some way. I'm really curious. But when all is said and done, you can begin to discover that not all of the techniques in this show are quite as effective as we are led to believe or we hope. You know, I'm talking about the moves which seem to be the bee's knees when you first read them and you look on them on paper, but prove to be a bit of a bum note. Here's a list of attacks and transformations that should be very powerful or potential game changers, but do not achieve this status during the course of the story, or at the peak of their efficacy when they can be the most useful. We're of course omitting the things like Super Saiyan Grade 2 and the original Golden Frieza, as their weaknesses were very clearly stated during the course of their story and their introduction, and their failures were part of self-aware storytelling. And not to mention the fact that they were very quickly superseded by stronger forms, so really you don't need to use them anymore. Number 1. The Mafuba or the Evil Containment Wave. We start off with something that promised so much, yet yielded so little. It certainly had its uses, but it never quite lived up to its evil imposing name, the Mafuba, or as we got in the translations, the Evil Containment Wave. Yes, that may have been a bit neutered, but it still sounded like cool, containing evil. And as the name suggests, it can contain phenomenal cosmic power in an itty-bitty little living space. Mostly demons, of course. It even lived up to Toriyama's sense of humor, of capturing these strong, malicious forces in items which are commonplace or completely unbefitting for their contents. You know, the cute little electric rice cooker for King Piccolo? That was hilarious. It even has a pretty risky side effect in that it can also end the user. But yeah, that part was also quickly dropped and forgotten when we got into Super. Well, maybe it's due to the sheer amounts of energy and power that Goku and Trunks have nowadays in comparison to before, where life force nowadays is essentially trivial. It did keep King Piccolo nicely contained for several centuries, but in the end, if you are familiar with any sort of pop culture, you know that if you find an imprisoned villain, it's a wink to the audience simply stating, oh yeah, they're gonna be breaking free at the start of this movie. Why does this go on the list? Well, it doesn't work anymore, or its users can't get it to work either by lack of experience or because the plot said so. It either backfired for Kami and Vegeta, failed to work out on King Piccolo and future Zamasu, and it might have worked for Zamasu if Goku remembered the seal! I'm still a little bit sore about that. It did stop Dokuri in the Tournament of Power, so yay? For as awesome as this power sounds on paper, it's very unreliable, and it's caused more problems than it's solved. It's a huge shame, really. Maybe the writers know that this move is too useful, and it needs to be nerfed for the sake of peril. If you just use the Mafuba as it was intended, you could really stop a lot of arcs very quickly. Number 2. Krillin's Destructo Disc / Frieza's copycat move. You guys knew that this had to be here. It has become a meme at this point in the Dragon Ball community, and you know it. This has been covered in much greater detail than we are willing to admit. Put simply, this attack is like the Mafuba in that it is in a way too good. In early Dragon Ball Z, the Destructo Disc should have been an absolute beast of an attack. So many things could have been resolved if only Krillin had performed, but yeah, more often than not it ends up in falling short or harming the user instead. When you stop to think about it, I think Krillin has never managed to use it entirely successfully, which feels almost cruel in a way. You know, it's meant to cut people in half, but yeah, all it did was cut Frieza's tail a little bit. Perhaps this is Toriyama's twisted sense of humour showing itself to the fore, aping what Toyotaro would do to poor Krillin in the manga and for Super. Remember that? That was harsh. But going back to the disc, come on. I mean, it's a freaking key soul blade. What else do you want me to say? Why isn't it awesome, Toriyama? I unsubscribe to you! Now you know how it feels. Unsubscribe shirt available on Teespring, by the way. Number 3. Every single Saiyan fusion that isn't called Gogeta. Fusions are awesome, right? I love them. It's such a surprising twist in the Buu saga, and it opened up a huge swathe of thought experiments for both new stories and testing the limits of Rule 34 and 63. Unfortunately, the only one who got any consistent results in the main continuity, including in the movies and GT if you want to lump that in, is Gogeta. Now, I know that many of you are going to bring up the likes of Vegito, and you are right in a way. Vegito is pretty awesome and effective, but only when the circumstances are favourable, or when they can get their act together. When you sit down and look at the bigger picture, Vegito either gets eaten or hit heavily by a retcon blast. And I understand the retcon makes some sort of sense, but it's still a very powerful nerf. And while Gotenks is a thing, and provides us some Looney Tunes-esque action in the Buu saga and Super, even he fails to bring home the bacon. It's funny how both of these forms are often set up as the ultimate weapons, but they don't really achieve that much unless you're Gogeta. And while Kefla was also pretty flashy, in the end she was beaten by Goku on his own in one of the best Kamehamehas in the entire series. And I'm sure that you can all agree with us on that one. Even nowadays, it's kind of amazing that Fusion has managed to remain so popular, despite achieving so little in the actual story. Unless you count the movies. Well, I mean, I guess the idea of fusing two characters alone is tempting enough, right? It certainly gave us some material for previous videos as well as spawning a very fun 3DS game that you guys should really check out if you haven't. I even did a Let's Play of it if you want to watch that. Number 4. Ultimate Gohan. Oh boy. This chestnut is back. The bang is down, people, once more. Technically though, we should be calling this potential Unleashed Gohan, but we all know what this is about. Either name is better than Mystic Gohan, that's for sure. Now, going into detail, this technique has endless potential, and yes, technically it can overpower Super Saiyan God, a statement made by the Elder Kai in Extreme Butoden game. And if Gohan could get a handle on it entirely, his future would look really bright, and it meant that Gohan would never have to rely on Super Saiyan ever again. However, even Webfoot Technologies knew that there was something wrong with this form when they developed Buu's Fury for the GBA back in the day. In said game, Gohan's potential unleashed power sort of ends up harming his progress throughout the entire game. Why is this? Well, okay, when he performs the ritual, this makes him gain 25 levels of experience. Sounds cool, right? But at the cost of him permanently losing access to gaining Super Saiyan. You can't use it again. In the anime, Ultimate sort of replaces Super Saiyan when Gohan powers up, but in the game, it's really bad. This power may be initially stronger than the other characters, but you don't progress. He soon begins to fall behind as other characters such as Goku and Vegeta start to catch up and then out-level him. And all of this whilst keeping the ability to go Super Saiyan. So ironically, the Elder Kai's power-up turns him into one of the worst characters in the game over the course of his runtime. Hardly worthy of the name Ultimate Gohan, really. It never has the time to shine, and it turns Gohan into simply a thing which buys time, who's giving everyone enough time to beat the big bad with something better. And it's pretty sad because Gohan doesn't deserve this. It also affects his mood, and we lose the calm Gohan and get a more arrogant one in the Buu saga. Although it must be said, in the Tournament of Power, he did manage to curb that weakness, so there is hope for the future of this form, but that's all it is right now. Hope. But, okay, yeah. Gohan ended that battle on his own terms. Number 5, Super Saiyan 3. Okay, this one has been mentioned countless times on this channel, but I will keep on saying this. Super Saiyan 3 is kinda dumb. I mean, what more can we say that hasn't been said already in previous videos that we have made? It undeniably has some kind of cult following, as this is almost an angelic vibe around it, which is enhanced by the fact that Goku has a halo. But it still hasn't won any notable fights in the main series, merely being used as a showcase that Saiyans still have limits to conquer. It's a display-only form due to the fact of how unstable it is. Its appearance in Super was literally, "Look, Khalifa, I can also do this! Hey viewer, remember this form? Do you remember? Very long hair, no eyebrow? Yeah, that one. It's still cool, right? Hey, it looks kinda cool in that action figure on your desk, right? Yeah? Yeah, okay, I'm gonna turn it off." I guess the best thing that can be said about Super Saiyan 3 is that in Dragon Ball Heroes, Super Saiyan 3 Nappa exists, and he is a major redeeming quality for this form. Good old Nappa, am I right? Now, let's go from the obvious and now to the stuff that's being actually kind of controversial. Because number 6, we're talking about Ultra Instinct. Are you surprised by this? Both Haverock and I like the two Ultra Instinct transformations. We're not going to be lumping in the traditional autonomous Ultra Instinct technique that the Angels and the GODs commonly use. We're talking about the stuff that Goku uses. But we also think that these were refreshing upon their introduction. Goku's triumph against Kefla? That was a tour de force, so what am I going on about? I mean, we have to be fair. If we count Vegeta being hit by a retcon and other forms failing to meet expectations, we kind of have to realize that the whole after effect of Ultra Instinct has really cheapened Goku's victory over Jiren and kind of cheapened the form itself. What's even more jarring is the fact that Goku has simply forgotten how to use it. I mean, it's not like this is an on-off switch technique like Super Saiyan Blue, but we can still feel the threat that outside of stuff like Dragon Ball Heroes, we may not see Ultra Instinct again in the main continuity. Kind of like that Spirit Saiyan thing in the Super Android 13 movie. Super Saiyan 2 before Super Saiyan 2 was even a thing. There may be a whole new form that will make us forget about Ultra Instinct in the next arc, which will make Ultra Instinct itself kind of redundant. Now, okay, we get why Goku forgot the power. By overusing it, it would have been quite bad, pretty much like every other form of Super Saiyan, but after a very great start, the last time that we saw Ultra Instinct in main Dragon Ball media would leave a lot to be desired. It kind of just ended. Especially that its main drawback was that it dragged out an extremely long fight even further. And ultimately, it wasn't the thing that ended Jiren, it was Goku and Frieza working together. That in itself was a fantastic ending, but Ultra Instinct was just really there for show and to make Jiren lose his shirt. So what do you guys think? Do you think that these techniques have a chance to be redeemed in the future? Are there other powers and techniques and the like that deserve to be mentioned here? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!